We in the United Church have been called many things. We've been called progressive, inclusive, and liberal. We've been called wishy-washy, lukewarm, and so open-minded that our brains fall out. We've been called relevant and in tune with the times, unorthodox and heretical. The NDP at prayer, the patron church of doubters. And whether we see these as compliments or insults, I suppose, depends on our point of view. Well, if the United Church really is the patron saint of doubters, then our patron saint is the disciple Thomas, who, when confronted with the risen Christ, said something to the effect of, "Well, show me the money." Many of us, probably most of us, grew up thinking that doubt was the opposite of faith, the enemy of faith. That was certainly true for me. I remember when at the age of 12, as I prepared for my confirmation, I had to memorize the Statement of Faith and Catechism of the United Church of Canada, which presented the various points of Christian doctrine in the form of questions and answers. Somebody else's questions and somebody else's answers. For example, question, what is it that gives purpose and meaning to our life? Answer, it is God's high purpose that gives meaning to our life. Question, what is God? Answer, God is the Almighty Father who made and controls all things according to his holy, wise, and good purpose. Question, what are the works of God? Answer, the works of God are creation, providence, and redemption. These probably sound familiar to many. Our preparation for confirmation consisted largely of memorizing the prescribed answers and being able to recite them pretty much verbatim in class, and then on the big day in front of the whole congregation. All of which begs the question, well, what would happen if we had a question that wasn't included in the catechism? Well, it was assumed to be a question not worth asking, to be honest. And the most unthinkable question of all would have been, is this teaching really true? Do I really have to believe this in order to be a member of the United Church of Canada? These were questions one just didn't ask. I'm thinking that most United Church folks would agree with this statement by American theoretical physicist Richard Feynman, who said, "I would rather have questions that can't be answered than answers that can't be questioned." And I love the story of the person who asked their rabbi, why is it that rabbis always answer a question with another question? To which the rabbi replied, "So what's wrong with the question?" And Dr. Leslie Weatherhead, prolific author and for close to 30 years minister at the famous City Temple in London, who once said that any minister standing in the pulpit who is not agnostic is dangerous. But of course, some kinds of doubt can be devastating. When you doubt that you are loved, when you doubt that you are worthy of being loved, when you doubt the loyalty and commitment of someone you trust. But in areas of faith and spirituality, doubt is not always a bad thing. A healthy spirituality encourages us to foster our inquisitive spirit, to avoid the illusion, the arrogance, that we have final and absolute answers, and to leave the ultimate questions to God. There's a line in the hymn that we'll be singing after the reflection today. The hymn is called, "You Tell Me That the Lord is Risen." And I'm referring to a line in the third verse that speaks of the rich courage of doubt. Let the rich courage of your doubt bring you to fresh belief. I believe that to doubt is not a sign of weakness and failure at all. It takes courage to honestly admit doubt, to ask the questions that everyone else is afraid to ask. Elie Wiesel went through the horror of Auschwitz. In his autobiographical account entitled Night, he describes how the sight of burning babies destroyed the faith of his childhood. Never shall I forget those flames which consumed my faith forever, he wrote. Never shall I forget those moments which murdered my God and my soul and turned my dreams to dust. Many of us can identify with Wiesel. Maybe our faith has also been shaken to its very core by some tragedy in our own life or in the life of someone we love. That was certainly the experience of the disciples in our reading this morning from the Gospel of John. They've been plunged into a real life crisis through their loss of Jesus and the loss of their common vision for the future. Everything that had ordered their world, everything that had given meaning to their lives had been thrown into utter chaos. They were afraid and they were unsure of what and whom to trust. They want to remain faithful, but the markers of their lives and their faith have been destroyed. And so the scriptures tell us when they encountered the risen Christ, the disciples believed, except for Thomas, who doubted. Doubts which come with life crises tend to emerge because old assumptions or beliefs no longer work, no longer fit, no longer make sense in this new situation. People adopt a set of beliefs in their lives to help them to organize and to make sense of their reality. And this includes beliefs about God and about the way we should live our lives. But when the reality of our lives is dramatically changed, when things happen that radically challenge our belief systems, then this creates both tremendous pain and anxiety on the one hand, but also tremendous possibility and potential on the other hand. When a radical disconnect emerges between old beliefs on the one hand and a new reality and new needs on the other hand, we are forced to reassess our beliefs and to start all over again to make sense of our lives in our world. I've had to do this over and over and over again in my adult faith journey, and I expect that we all have, to reassess what we believe in the light of new experiences and new knowledge. My beliefs, my sense of what's important in life and what isn't important at all has changed dramatically. From what I was taught as a child by my parents and my Sunday school teachers, to what I believed when I was ordained at the ripe old age of 24, to where I stand now. And this is exactly what happened for Thomas. And while his doubt was perhaps not comfortable for him or for the people around him, maybe it was necessary in order for him to make sense of this new normal, this new reality, and in order for him to eventually declare, which he did, my sovereign and my God. The crisis the resultant challenges to Thomas's belief system, including the doubting and the questioning, have all paved the way for a radical reformulation of faith. So this story obviously has something to say to us about the nature and reality of doubt in our spiritual lives. But it also has something to say to us, and this may be even more important, about the nature of community, and especially about the nature of Christian community. The early Christian community of which Thomas was a part was a community that relied on a common interpretation of beliefs and mission in order to survive in what was a very hostile environment. So when Thomas refused to believe, when he refused to salute the flag like everybody else, when he expressed his deep doubt out loud, this put him at significant odds with the rest of his community. But what's so interesting about this story for our time is how Thomas is completely accepted by the rest of the group. He's still with them at the end of the week. He isn't booted out of the movement. He hasn't been asked to leave. He hasn't been ostracized, nor has he been browbeaten into pretending he is of one mind with the rest. Even though he has been left out of the group experience and takes a different point of view from the rest, Thomas still belongs to the community. His individual needs are honored, and the community holds Thomas in the midst of his doubts and his differences. And not only is Thomas tolerated, despite his profound difference in doubt, but Jesus himself invites Thomas to touch and to see and to feel without blame. Jesus invites Thomas to honor his doubt by doing whatever it is he needs to do in order to make sense of this new reality. Thomas doesn't have to pretend he's someone he isn't. He doesn't have to pretend to believe something he doesn't. He doesn't have to leave the community because of his difference. He is accepted for who he is, and in the end, the whole community is enriched by his different point of view. I don't know about you, but I, for one, really appreciate the doubters, the agnostics and the atheists in my life, because they keep me honest. Translation, they keep me from saying dumbass things that I'm not able to defend or explain, or maybe even believe myself. You know, the cliches that roll off our tongues when we don't know what else to say. Which reminds me of a book which I read not too long ago on the recommendation of a friend. And the title of the book is Everything You Need to Know. It's self-explanatory. The title of the book is Everything Happens for a Reason and Other Lies I've Loved. Everything happens for a reason and other lies I've loved. For those of us who have experienced significant crisis and pain in our lives, the death of a loved one, the onset of a serious illness, the ending of a significant relationship. For those of us whose very basic convictions and beliefs have been called into question, doubt may, in fact, be a very healthy and healing experience. Perhaps we are called not only to accept the reality of doubt in our lives, but to actually embrace and even to celebrate the role of doubt in our lives. Letting the new break in with its resultant doubts and questions, and living with the mystery and the ambiguity that this creates, may well set the stage for new and empowering possibilities for life and for faith. Thanks be to God.